that's fine, mate.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hurry. If you've got other plans for him, you know, you can drop it back later or early tomorrow. But yeah, it is pick up some drums when you're down there and bring them back.
No worries.
Excellent.
Okay, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
I'll let you out in a minute. I'll let you out for a stretch in a minute. I'll see you're messed up.
Erica Eaton and Will Harris are jointly responsible for rounding up all lost and stray dogs across Salford, an area of 37 square miles. If a dog's been chipped, there's a good chance they'll be able to get it home.
The chip is the size of a grain of rice. It's been planted in the dog's neck. You can run the machine over the dog's neck. Sometimes can migrate over the body.
So you're just rubbing the scanner over the dog's body now. Nothing's going on.
Nothing's come out at all, no.
That means there's no chip in there.
No chip at all, no.
All too often, they find dogs with no chip. The Dogs Trust says 90,000 stray dogs were found last year on the streets of the UK. Only 50% were given back to their owners straight away because they had a microchip. Without one, wardens have only social media to help them.
We have a Twitter account as well, so I put her on Twitter. What we do is we put limited information. We don't say whether it's a girl or a boy. All we say is the dog's not chipped, it's got no collar, it's got no tag.
Some of the biggest animal pressure groups have been campaigning for compulsory microchipping over many years. The RSPCA, the Kennel Club and the Dogs Trust all think it will help. But there are concerns about how easy it will be to enforce for already overstretched wardens.
Once you've served a notice, then hopefully the person takes heed and does get the dog chipped. But then, if they don't, where do you take it from there then? Are you going to have to go through the prosecution route, and then it's just causing more paperwork and hard work for us?
We won't increase the amount of strays we get, we'll still get the strays, but what it will do, hopefully, we'll get the strays home to their mums and dads, so to speak. The dog is part of the family.
As well as local authorities, the police and the RSPCA will be responsible for enforcing the new law. The government says it doesn't expect everyone who routinely comes into contact with dogs to scan them for chips. Significantly, that exemption applies to vets. 70,000 people have signed a petition calling for scanning by vets to be made compulsory. Sean Wensley, the president of the British Veterinary Association, says that is not practical.
I think any client owner bringing their pet to a veterinary practice for the first time can expect that it would be highly likely that their dog will be scanned.
But is that good enough? Is highly likely good enough? Shouldn't it be every time it's scanned?
Well, it would be very unusual for them not to be. So BVA's clear guidance is that ought to happen. To the extent that it's practical, I suppose we allow for the caveat, because as you can well imagine, there are times when working in a very busy veterinary practice, or a very busy veterinary hospital, there may just be a prevailing set of circumstances at that moment that makes it impossible at that moment in time to do it, simply because different animals requiring emergency treatment have arrived at the same time.
Grey markings, grey and black markings. Hello! And it's got a chip.
It's got a chip?
Brilliant, it's chipped.
Where you been?
So we'll now put the dog in the back of the van, get off the main road, and then we'll ring the chip company and hopefully they'll give us the details of where the dog lives. That's fantastic.
Erica and Will are on their rounds. While taking a microchipped dog back to its registered address, they spot a stray crossing a busy road.
Go jump in for me. Come on, come on.
While Erica ushers the dog into a pen in the back of their van, Will phones the company where this particular chip is registered.
Has a dog been reported missing or as a stray before? Okay, is there a contact phone number, please?
But even with a chip, reuniting this dog with its owner is far from straightforward. So the sat-nav's taken us to the supposed address of this dog.
Yeah, when we've got here, obviously the houses have been demolished and it's now just an empty field. More than likely, when the houses were demolished, they've been rehomed up to near where the dog was found, but obviously the chip details are not up to date now, so we've drawn a bit of a blank.
Under the new law, owners who don't keep their details up to date will also be liable for a £500 fine. So will it work? In Northern Ireland, mandatory dog microchipping was introduced in 2012. The Ulster Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals says they do believe it's been effective. Francis Fox is a welfare officer for the USPCA.
We see it in our animal hospital that there's dogs that have facilities down and brought to us. We have read the dogs been chipped and we've been able to reunite with the owner of the dog. So from that point of view, it's a great benefit. Before the microchipping in Northern Ireland in 2012, the only way we would have been able to check is see if the dog had a license tag, and that's providing that the dog was wearing the license tag on its collar.
He barks like hell.
In Light Oaks Park, a favourite haunt for dog walkers, Will and Erica spread the word about compulsory microchipping. They know that education as well as enforcement will be necessary to make the new law a success. And ultimately, it'll depend on the owners, whose dogs it is designed to protect.
If people aren't frightened of getting the dogs chipped, they're not frightened of any repercussions. I mean, like, dogs fall on the pavement, that's the worst bugbear for me. Terrible. Well, obviously, if the dog's microchipped, they're traceable, and if someone sees your dog doing it, it's a good thing for dogs now, because I think all dogs should be microchipped.
There's times when he gets away, and if he's microchipped, there's more chance of him being found, isn't there? I do believe it's a good thing.
I do know a guy who had his dog fixed in the scandal, the vets, and basically rang him up so he could get his dog back, and his couple got arrested, so it's a good thing for things like that.
Dog owners talking to our reporter Andrew Fletcher, and in case you're wondering, dogs still need to wear a collar and tag in a public place. The owners of some of the cleanest cars on the road will end up paying more in car tax when changes come in next year, and the owners of some of the dirtiest cars will pay less. That's the conclusion of a study by the car price expert Parkers. Changes were announced by the Chancellor George Osborne last year, and they didn't attract much attention because of the big time lag before they kicked in. Keith Jones writes for Parkers, and he's been looking at what the changes will mean for individual car owners. Keith, welcome to you and yours. At the moment, there are cars that you can drive tax-free. Why is that?
Yes, that's correct. Currently, we've got a system with 13 bands based on different levels of carbon dioxide or CO2 emissions. And they range from 0 to 100 grams per kilometre at the bottom end of the scale, and over 255 grams per kilometre at the top end of the scale. And essentially, the less CO2 a car produces, the less money it costs to tax each year. And so that bottom category is currently free.
What's the idea then behind the changes?
The idea is essentially a twofold thing. Primarily it's to divert revenue straight to the road building programme in future years, and also it's in part because the government realises that because more and more cars have got lower CO2 emissions, they need to recoup some of that revenue, because otherwise there'd be virtually no money coming to the Treasury in future years.
So tell us what will change.
Okay, so at first glance the system looks similar to how it does at present, but they've altered the banding. So some of the lower bands have been split into 5, so that cheapest one that was currently free is now split into 5 bands, which means only electric cars and hydrogen powered cars are theoretically able to have free road tax in future. And then at the other end of the scale, the prices have been increased. So for the first year, which is always the more expensive, all the prices have increased, but it's particularly hit cars which currently would have free road tax harder, because obviously they're suddenly having to pay a cost.
Now the government has said it wants to make the tax fairer and simpler. People buying cars with the higher CO2 emissions, they'll pay a lot more in that first year, up to £2,000. But you claim they could still end up paying less tax overall. Why?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a £900 increase for the dirtiest band, up from £1,100. But obviously most cars are bought on some kind of finance agreement these days, and that is encapsulated within the initial finance agreement, that on the road price, if you like. So most customers won't actually notice that in terms of an extra £900 they're forking out. The difference is in the standard rate, which is the price payable from year 2 onwards. And here, again, barring zero emission cars, so electric and hydrogen powered cars, everybody will then pay a flat rate of £140, and it's there that the tax saving comes in for the dirtier cars on the scale. So for instance, a current dirty car would pay £505 standard rate each year, and that's dropping to £140.
How do the owners of some clean cars then end up paying a lot more if, as you say, the electric and hybrids are free?
Okay, so because it's £140 for all those cars, so if we take a typical clean car, such as a Toyota Prius, that's currently free under the current system, but over 6 years under the new system, which is introduced in April 2017, the same owner of the same car would pay £725 for that car. Whereas the owner of, say, a Ford Mustang would end up paying £925 less
under the new system than they do under the current system over that same 6 year